Hello, true believers. We have another vlog about police going wild again. I mean, the police being police over here in the Philippines. Over here, this showed up on my news feed yesterday. So we have police over here that sexually assaulted a quarantine violator, raped a quarantine violator. This was on one of these news channels over here, and 18 hours ago. If you want to see the video yourself, it says here, police na nang molest. The title is Police na nang molestya ng quarantine violator pinadali sa serbisyo. It just says that police molested a quarantine violator. And removed from their job. That's what it says. So I'm using my iPad over here. So let's go to the video. It's about almost 3 minutes. Let's take a look at what they have to say over here. So sexual assault of a quarantine violator. So rape. Let's go to the video.
Kapulisan dahil ilan lamang po ang mga ito.
Let's go to the video.
Leia, ano pang kaso ang kaharapin itong nanghalay na pulis? May mga criminal case na kakaharapin niya, no, Ella? Rape?
So what are the cases being filed against the police? And they said criminal cases.
Sexual assault. At dahil nga dyan, ipinagbutos na ni PNP Chief Police General Guillermo Eleazar ang agarang pagsasampa ng administrative case na grave.
So the sexual assault or rape was filed against the police, and that the police are doing so right away. The police also, the general says that they're filing a case against grave misconduct. So they consider rape by police grave misconduct as an administrative case. So here he is. It's nice that they're protecting their identity by blocking their eyes over here, but their name is still here. Let's continue.
Misconduct sa pulis na si Patrolman Elmer Tuazon Jr. Ito'y matapos namang molestya ng nahuling quarantine violator sa quarantine control point sa barangay Batangas 2, Mariveles, Bataan.
So what she said was in Batangas, they had a from the different, there was a different one, a news feed that I saw, but I'll go ahead and describe it or sum it up. It was 7 a.m. A few days back. They were at a checkpoint, and there was this girl she was not authorized outside of residence, or is what they call it, and they detained her. So that was at 7 a.m. and the girl is a teenager, 19 years old. So these two were stationed at that checkpoint. Let's continue. So the patrolman and marshal is what they are saying that they are.
Sa ulat noong August 27, alas 7 ng umaga.
August 27th, so just last week, 7 a.m. in the morning.
Asita ni Tuazon at ng marshal team leader na si Armando Di Maculangan ang babaeng biktima na kabilang sa non-authorized person outside of residence o non-apor. Matapos hulihin, isinama pa ni Tuazon at ni Di Maculangan ang biktima sa kanyang boarding house para umano magsagawa.
So after the girl was taken, they brought her to her boarding house, and that's when they raped her. So it's a boarding house they took her to and raped her.
Doon na umano nangyari ang panghihipo at sexual assault sa biktima. Ayon kay PNP Chief Police General Guillermo Eleazar, dapat na matanggal sa serbisyo si Tuazon dahil walang puwang sa organisasyon ang abusadong pulis na katulad nito.
So he's saying this is what the translation, that these people should be removed from the police service because there's no place for them in our organization for this kind of behavior, is what he's saying. Well, yes, obviously. But let's continue.
Humingi ako ng paumanhin sa biktima at sa kanyang pamilya dahil sa kanyang sinapit at tinitiyak ko sa inyo na makakamit ninyo ang hustisya dito.
So he's asking for
He's
asking for an apology from the victim, and that he's reassuring them that we are going to get justice. So that's reassuring. So let's continue.
Ay nasampahan na rin Ella na reklamong rape by sexual assault at acts of lasciviousness sa piskalya.
makatiyak din ng agarang aksyon ng ating mga kababayan laban sa mga tiwali sa aming hanay. Kaya nakikiusap din ako na wag sanang lalahatin ang kapulisan dahil ilan lamang.
So he's saying we're going to continue our fight against the corrupt, and I'm asking for your assistance.
Po ang mga ito. At higit na mas
I'm asking for your
nakakarami
help.
ang mga pulis na handang tumulong at gumagawa ng tama sa ngalan ng police service.
Ella, panawagan ni General Eliazar sa publiko, agad na isumbong ang mga tiwali at abusadong pulis upang maaksyonan.
So he's saying that everyone should report the abusive police right away so we can go into action.
Ng Philippine National Police. Ella?
Laya, kumusta naman ang lagay ng biktima?
He's asking how's the victim.
Ella, walang nabanggit ang PNP tungkol doon sa biktima. Ngunit usually kapag ganyan ay binibigyan ito ng escort o
So they haven't. The police didn't say what the condition of the victim is. So that's what she's saying. But she's saying usually, normally, or they should. That's how it is here. It's something that should happen. It's not actually happening. But we'll see. They're saying that they're giving the victim escort or security while this case is ongoing. Is what they said right here.
upang masiguro ang seguridad dito dahil nga
Give her
nagpapaito ng
security.
reklamo laban dito kay Patrolman Tuazon Jr. Usually yan ay binibigyan ng seguridad ng Philippine National Police hanggat
So they're saying they're providing witness protection or security every time you file a case against the police. And why? Because your life is in danger. Every time you file a case against the police, your life is in danger because the rule over here is if they can't testify or if they're dead, then the case usually just languishes and like what the hell do we do? What's going on? And it's usually dismissed because of that technicality. Well, the person is dead and you can't. If there's no testimony or there's no evidence, then you can't judge them as guilty
hindi na ipakukulong itong sa
for lack of evidence.
Alright, maraming salamat. Leia Ilagan, live na nag-uulat mula sa Mandaluyong City.
So
dahil walang puwak Marshal Team Leader na si Armando
So here's my thoughts and analysis on the situation. So let me do a summary again. So what happened here was the police caught this 19-year-old teenager at a quarantine checkpoint, and she was supposed to do community service. And what they did was, this is part of your community service, is being raped. So this is the second one that I actually reported on before. One was I was actually in prison when this happened. I saw it. I watched it on the news and I did a video on it, and the girl was killed right after she filed the case, and the women's and children's help desk was actually stonewalling her when she asked for an escort. Can I have security? Can I have an escort? Since I just filed a case against the police for being raped for the same reason, was for violating quarantine violation, which was she was at a party at her cousin's house or something like that, and then there was no party, and then the police saw them there and they arrested them. And in exchange for letting them go and not being arrested, is that they wanted sex in return. And if you're not going to give it to them, they're going to force it on you. So this is the usual normal thing that the police do over here, is if they arrest you, then if they say, we'll let you go. In exchange for men, it's usually money or drug money or doing a favor like murder or selling drugs or committing a crime so the police don't have to do it. So there's crimes that the police are going to do themselves, and there's crimes that they're going to use what's called an asset to commit the crime. For example, in my case, they use these so-called children, so a crime could be committed. And same thing over here when it comes to when it comes to people they arrest. So they have this extortion system where, okay, I'm going to arrest you, I'm going to put you in a secret jail, but in return, and I'm going to keep you there, but I'm going to let you go free. I'm not going to file a case against you, or I'm not going to get you inquested where you'll be formally charged in exchange for something. And when it comes to women, it usually means sex. Or in this case, rape. So the question is, why would the police do this? They're the ones that are supposed to be preventing these rape crimes. They're the ones supposed to be investigating them. They're the ones that are supposed to be punishing the people. Well, what the hell do you do if the police themselves are doing the rape? They have this culture of impunity that they know how the law works. And what they'll do is they'll just threaten the victim that if you report us, we're going to not only kill you, we're going to kill your family if you report us. So that's why a lot of 99.9%, a lot of these cases, they just move on and just say, hey, I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. At least it they let me go. And she was one of the lucky ones because that she probably played possum like I did when I was in prison. I didn't know anything. I wasn't gonna report anything because I didn't know there was anything to report at the time. I didn't know anything about my credit cards at the time because I instructed the boss that I informed her that no, my credit cards are current. I don't owe any money, so you don't have to worry about them. So she didn't, and we didn't know that there was these statements, and which turned into a collections after, which started turning into phone calls after I think 3 months. So that's when she found out, and so so the victim was probably saying, "Yeah, don't worry, I'm not going to report you," and they let her go. Usually, when a police rape somebody, they usually kill them off as to tie off any loose ends. But in this situation, they probably felt like they could let her go, that she's not going to file a case against them, and because most people would be, they don't want to deal with the hassle or the inconvenience or the danger of it. It fits in with the culture of just living in the moment. Well, the moment has passed already. Yes, I was raped, but that was yesterday. That was last week. That was 2 weeks ago, and I've completely forgotten about it. I mean, and is it worth going to court, for years and years, and then putting not only myself in danger, but my family in danger every time I show up to these things? Because this police has other police friends with guns that could make my life a living hell. That could either murder me or do something worse, which is what they did. I'm not a woman. I've never been a rape victim. I guess guys could be raped also, but I never had to deal with that issue. I In prison, my issues were issues of like in a third world country where you only have one bathroom with 150 people, and it's mostly that kind of physical abuse where your human rights are violated, where you're not supposed to have that many people, and that, but who stands up for the human rights of people in prison that are not yet convicted, that are still innocent? But here in the Philippines, once you're in prison, you're presumed guilty and you be treated like somebody that's guilty because you ended up there, versus being innocent. You're already being punished day one, even if you're innocent. That's just the way the Philippines works, which is, all of you should know the reality and how the system here works, because it could happen to you. Because as you can see, the police over here, you could do nothing wrong, as something as simple as going outside to get something. I'm sure she was just going on an errand to get something to eat. I mean, she has her day-to-day life. Everybody over here has their day-to-day life routine. Then all of a sudden you're in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people, and all of a sudden you're raped for something as petty as being outside, or at 7 a.m. I mean, it's 7. I guess the curfew is between where people are allowed to go 8 a.m. and just being an hour early. So, and then the police over here all of a sudden have a right to rape you with impunity, and then probably threaten you. And I have firsthand knowledge, firsthand experience of this, because Chief John, Chief Police Cybercrime John Paras, visited me in jail. And of course, I'm not a woman. He wanted more money from me after he already went through the credit cards because he needs more money. And he threatened my family uh, while I was in prison, which is probably the most panic attack, anxiety time of my life until I found out he went AWOL. And you're talking about 3 years later, he's still absence without leave. I haven't heard any. While my case was ongoing, he shows up to all my cases, all my hearings, and then all of a sudden, a year later, he was replaced, and they just the person who replaced him, who is probably just as bad, said that we can't find him. He's absent without leave. And that's normal for police over here. Some of them just disappear and you don't know what happened to him. There's a chance that he might have just gone on the lam and went into hiding, but the probability of that is not likely because there's no secrets here in the Philippines. Eventually, crap eventually comes out, and by the smell alone you could track him down, but he has disappeared. My guess is he's swimming with the fishes somewhere or pushing daisies, but the point is that he that that he stopped showing up. And but for me, he wanted not only money, but he wanted more money. And if he was still alive, I would probably be a loose end that he's trying to tie up right now. But he's officially absence without leave, which is unusual for a high-ranking chief of police like him to be absent without leave. Of course, we call it AWOL, but over here they call it Awol. If you say AWOL, people over here will have no idea what you're talking about. But if you say Awol, and I try to explain to them, well, AWOL is an American term, so this is the American way, the proper way of American way of saying it. But of course, they have to say it in their own way, and if you don't say it their way, they're not gonna know what you're talking about. I would say, oh, he's AWOL, and they're like, what's that? Oh, I'm sorry, AWOL. Oh, okay. Absence without leave. They'll say, yeah. So they go, oh, he's probably dead, which is common also for either the police are tying up their own loose ends, or their victims coming back at them, which happens over here. I mean, it's street justice is what normally happens over here. If you want justice, that's kind of the kind of form of another form of justice over here, another common form of justice. So I those are what I had, and of course the first thing they thought was I had something to do. I was the number one suspect of I got a visit while I was in prison. I got a visit from his replacement, and he didn't say anything to me. He just took pictures of me while I was in prison, and I was asking myself, who is this person? And later on, I saw him in court. He was the replacement. And I think he was sizing me over because he was planning on probably. There's only one reason why some chief of police would visit somebody in prison, was probably to see if he could extort more money out of me. And I've been in prison for over a year already, and how is he gonna extort money from somebody that's already in prison for over a year? That person has no leverage, and he probably saw that when he saw me, and he didn't bother trying to extort me for more money. But he showed up and tried anyway. Why he showed up? Like I said, it's money. Same reason why he showed up to my first attorney's office. And my attorney says, why did he visit you in office? And I already knew in the back of my mind the reason why, but I just asked anyway. Oh, he was just dropping off some paperwork or some evidence or some discovery that they're obligated to do. And I said to myself in the inside, I said, bullshit. He could have somebody, one of his errand boys, to do it. Why does he need to do it himself? And it's because of money. They're asking for money. he's soliciting money. He's saying that, like, hey, I gave you all this work. You've got all these cases. I filed so many cases. I know you've got a huge acceptance fee. So you need to kick back. I mean, that's how it is here in the Philippines. Extortion, kickback, shakedowns. Where's my kickback? I gave you all this work. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have this big fish rich client of yours because of my work. Where's my money? He wanted to establish this kind of relationship with them, that's kind of the scary relationship that police and lawyers have. He wanted to establish that kind of, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. But I was kind of like at the point where, like, hey, homie, don't play that. And he knew that I wasn't going to play like that. So, especially since they had no intention, both of them had no intention of getting me out of prison. They wanted to keep me in there as long as possible to 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 make as much money as possible. And at this point, I mean, money is not the issue over here. So, but back to what I was saying over here. So, for when it comes to the police over here, for men, they want money from them or commit crimes for them that are related to most likely drugs or gun for hire or killing, which the that one Muslim online seller, how she was killed. She wasn't killed by police, but she was killed by one of their assets. So the reason probably why is that probably they know him as a murderer, and they just keep him as an asset. So if they want somebody murdered, they'll tell this person to do it, and they could always deny it. It's like, oh, we didn't do the murdering, this person did it, and we don't know why they did it. It's that person is a murderer, so why should you believe them? It's their word against theirs. It's what they call it over here is a striker. A striker is what the police call an asset, where they tell them what to do, especially commit crime, so the police don't have to do it themselves. I remember when I was in prison, I was being escorted by the police to one of my hearings, and I was telling them my story about, yeah, this is about money. I told one of them is that, like, they used my credit cards while I was in prison, so that's why I'm here. They were asking me questions about it. Usually they like to make small talk. And one of the questions he asked is, I wonder, he already knew that the police used the credit card, and he asked me the question, I wonder if he did it himself or if he used an asset or a striker. The exact words he said was, ginawa ba niya or gumamit ba siya ng striker, is what he was saying, which was like a common system culture here in the Philippines. So in this situation over here, that's what they do with the men. For the women, as you could see, it's sex or sexual favors or using their sexuality so they can commit crimes. So in this situation, they said, okay, in exchange for not doing community service or not being in prison or for violating quarantine protocols, as you could see, I mean, I had to deal with that issue also. I had I don't know who, but complaining that me and Hero were jogging without face masks on, even though we were outside and nobody was around us, and they were asking that I should be arrested also for those reasons. And since I was in private property, this was an association. They didn't do that. They just sent me as you can see, the warning. But the point I'm saying here is, when it comes to the police over here, this is their culture. This is the system. And it's not for you to say whether it's right or wrong, or I always say of course, that's wrong in your Western eyes, but over here, it's, as you can see, it's the culture. This is the reason why they do it. They do this on a normal basis. And I probably wanted to tell you that that's why you don't really see any pretty women in prison. When I was in prison and I was in detention, I was looking at the other side of all the women on that side, and they they've been through some hard times. The what's the word I'm looking for here? In America, they say the years haven't been kind to her. Well, you could really tell. I mean, a lot of these girls in prison, they probably looked pretty at one point, but they once they got into prison, they all looked used up and haggard. So that when they get to the point where even the police, the arresting police don't want them, then that's where they end up in prison, and you're not gonna find anything that you're going to like in prison, because the good ones that still have a freshness to them, they're going to be let go in exchange for sex. But the ones where even the police don't want it in exchange for sex, they end up in prison. So there's so there's some really but but for but for guys, I mean, if it's free and if it's there and if it's available, they'll do it. I'm not saying that happened while I was in prison, but I did do a video where the chief of police of the detention station was using it as his love nest. When the people showed up, they had the guy had a bedroom set up, and the detainees, or the prisoners, one of them was being used as a maid, while was one was being used as a they were saying as a consensual girlfriend. So that's the reality. Is it scary? Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're a woman. I mean, for a man, the money can be replaced. I mean, if you're a local, the murder 2 weeks later, you forget about it. This is murder over here. The people over here, it's not something that keeps them awake. You have to have a soul. You have to have a higher level of consciousness to be kept awake by the people you murdered. And over here, when people murder, if you're a police asset, you're doing it just to survive. You could justify it. It's either me or this person. And of course, your survival instincts as an animal, you're gonna choose the other person. It's like kill or be killed once you become a police asset. And you're just what you're doing. You know you're gonna die. You're just buying time until uh, you're just buying or living for the day, which is what is the reality here in the Philippines. When you don't know what you're when you don't when the future is nothing to look forward to. If you're in poverty, would you want to think about the future? No, because you already know that it's going to be more suffering, it's going to be more struggle, it's going to be more desperation, especially as the country gets more deeper into debt, and there's the economy is just destroyed because of these ongoing quarantines. I can't say one way or another, an opinion or another, whether they're right or wrong, what's good for the economy or what's good for the health of the people. What I'm saying, what is going on is the country is going more deeper and deeper into debt, and what that's going to happen is it's going to decrease the value of the local currency and drive prices up, which means these people are here, especially the police, are going to need more money. But where the hell are they going to get the money from? The people already over here are already knee deep in debt. They have no more money. They have they're desperate. The government, the money that the government gives them is being stolen, and whatever they get is very little. Then where is the money going to come from? What you need to realize is that the money is going to come from, where is the money going to come from? The money is going to come from you. Do you have money? Well, the police our experts are getting the money out of you. And once that happens, once they get the money out of you, or once they get the money from you, then you're considered a loose end. And the safest thing for them to do is to murder you and kill you in cold blood, and then just cremate you afterwards, and just flush your ashes down the toilet, which they did to that Korean businessman. And the only reason why they did that was because the police don't have money, and they need money, and they have money. And this Korean businessman had money, and had a lot of money. Well, any money is enough. The police over here will kill you for any money. It doesn't have to be, in my situation, it's credit cards. And you're probably saying, well, Bill, it's only how come they didn't kill you? It's because they did worse than killing me, which was put me in prison. If you're murdered, then at least your suffering is quick. And I'm not saying it's painless, because that Korean businessman was asphyxiated, that he was strangled to death. So that's kind of like a few seconds of terror or a few minutes of terror where you're actually dying, and it's a painful death. It's not like a painless gunshot to the head, which is probably what I would prefer. Hopefully quick and there's no anticipation of it, then that would be a better fate than being stuck in years, possibly decades in jail while your case is being tried, or you could possibly be convicted. So that's what you have to face here when it comes to the reality here in the Philippines, is that if you have money, or if you're a man, if you're a woman, as you could see over here, they want sex from a woman. And if you have good sex, if you're a teenager like this girl, and of course, how else is the question is, why did they do it? Well, how else is the police going to get pussy? And then same thing with men is money, is they'll extort money from you to as you could see, you could be innocent, and there's no innocent people over here when it comes to money. And how do you expect the police over here to have money if they're not going to, they can't get it by arresting poor people. Those people don't have money. So they're going to get it from you, is what you need to know. Anyway, so this is another example of the culture over here, the system over here, the dark side of the Philippines that you need to worry about. If you're a woman, of course, you could do things to protect yourself. Use the buddy system if they like to victimize people that are alone. Also, when it comes to the police, also over here, is when it comes to men, is also they want to victimize people that are alone, that they know that they have no help, no one's going to help them, and they're the only ones that are going to give them where there's no hope at all. So if you come here by yourself and no buddy system, then you're more likely that's what they like to target. So so my advice is, number one, don't come here. And if you are going to come here, you have to come here. I understand what the reasons why I'm here. So I can't really say don't come here, because I'm still here. Is that make sure you use the buddy system. You are less likely a target versus someone who doesn't know anybody over here. So if you just come here by yourself, then you're going to be an easy target for them to extort money from you. But if you know somebody over here that knows the lay of the land, that has a lot of experience, that you can trust, then you're less likely a target. I'm not saying you're not a target, but these people are always usually going after the lower hanging fruit. So that's my advice. And if you have money, you should be scared, because you should be more scared because the people over here need money, want money, and they're going to get it from you. Just like this person, not only do they want money, but for women, they want sex. And that's what they did. And we'll let you, and it just wasn't one person, it was his superior that did it also. That just goes to show you how they are not they're not worried. They weren't worried about doing it. It wasn't and you could probably pretty much assume that this wasn't an isolated incident. This is probably something that they do on a normal basis, and this one just happened to be reported. Anyway, let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. But this is, like I said, the reality here in the Philippines. And you're just because you're a man, that you're less likely to be raped by them. But what you do is you do have money, and they will extort money from you in exchange for not filing charges against you, like they did with me, regardless if you're even if you're innocent, or if there's no crime that's been committed. They will do it just to extort money, like they did with my credit cards and my Bitcoin account and my bank account. And there's no way of stopping them, because they have my phone, they have they had access to my email, they have access to my cards, they have access to my ID. So there was no way I could stop them but because I was in prison with no bail. Normally, the system over here is if you get arrested within 3 days, you have to be inquested, which they will tell you that's when you have bail. If you've been charged with something that's not, I think it was as long as it's not kidnapping, human trafficking, rape, or murder, but then in 3 days you could be out of prison. So you only have to spend 3 days in hell. But if they charge you with something like that, rape, human trafficking, kidnapping, murder, these are considered heinous crimes, then you're not going to get out of prison, and you have been, even if you're innocent. And as you can see, they don't need any evidence of it at all. There's no testimony. There's nothing in the judicial affidavit to charge you with these heinous crimes. You just the only thing they need to charge you with a heinous crime here in the Philippines is money. Period. You don't have to commit rape. You don't have to commit human trafficking. You don't have to commit murder. You don't have to commit kidnapping. All you have to do is money, and they will easily charge you with any of those, so you can never get out of prison, and you can never deal with your case. You won't be able to get out in 3 days because of your money. And if that's a possibility over here, and another high possibility is that you will be murdered or killed by the police. I mean, murdered by the police over your money, just like that Korean businessman. And it's the police that you're gonna, if you do come here to the Philippines, it's not gonna be the criminals over here. It's the police that it's the police are the ones that are gonna commit the crime or one of their assets. Anyway, let me know if you agree. If you disagree, this is just another example of the culture here in the Philippines. I'm not here to show you that it's all wonderful over here and how the people are wonderful over here. There's also the flip side of the coin, which is the Philippine National Police. They will rape, torture, murder, kidnap for for obvious reasons, sex, and in your case, your money. Let me know what you think. This is Bebs Only. Thanks for watching.